Hi everyone! We're starting the process to put the engine back in the car. We're going to start with getting the engine off of the yoke onto its cradle, and then we're going to attach the transmission to it as well in this video. Well, our first step in all of this is to get the engine off of the stand and onto the cradle we're going to use to lift it up into the car. Alright, so this may look a little bit crazy, but this is our cradle here and it's sitting on our lift. And what we're going to do is pull the engine over the top of it and then raise the lift up until we can support the engine and remove the actual stand and the yoke in the back of it. After we're kind of at that point, we can pull it back down and we'll pull it back out of the garage here and we're going to mate it to the transmission. So we need the lift just high enough to be able to scoot the stand underneath it. Alright, I think that's pretty close. There we go. Okay.
That was fast.
Yeah. We'll have to position this when we get it over the top of it.
So I'm going to pull it towards me.
Okay. A little bit. Okay, I think we're pretty lined up at this point. There we go. Okay.
Yay.
All right.
And the cheering section.
Okay. All right, well, let's see what we got here. As far as getting this thing on this correctly the first time is pretty important. Get fairly centered. Let me figure out how we're going to line this guy up and make sure it's sitting where it needs to sit, because I built this cradle specifically to sort of sit up in here.
There we go.
There we go. That's it. And I think might need a couple of them here. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, so I have to operate the lift and I can't see really well. So Marcel, you'll be my eyes here to make sure that it starts to sit on the cradle and that it's stable on this lift as I raise this lift. That makes sense.
Starting to hit the cloths.
I can see it.
There it
All
goes.
right.
Happy campage?
Yeah. Okay, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's definitely.
Yep.
Leveling.
Okay. We have liftoff.
Okay, has it pulled the yoke and the stand off the ground?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. There we go. Well, at this point, since it's at a nice height, I'm going to go ahead and remove the yoke here and pull this guy off. We have a piece of tin that goes in here. There we go. This is a monumental occasion here, getting this thing off the engine. It's been, gosh, Heidi, what? It's been like a year, huh?
It has been a year. In fact, I was figuring out when we were looking into getting all of the parts done, and I think the video was from around October of last year. So it has been a year.
It's been a year. And look at this, I still have some engine schmutz here, so I'll go ahead and clean that up just because it was behind the yoke. So I'll clean that up. Okay, now this guy, they're just bolts, 10mm bolts that hold on the actual sensor itself. In the very rear of the engine that's accessible, and I guess Porsche service would use it, but nobody else does. It's for top dead center. It's just so you know where top dead center is. Will you go in? There it goes. Okay, great. Yay. Okay. There we go. And these guys up here. Are you happy? You are happy. Look at that.
What's it for?
It's just a block to hold the wires.
What's the wire for there?
Oh, the wire goes out to the starter and out to the transmission. We've got our tin piece on. I think we're all set actually to mate the transmission to the back of the engine here. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and lower it down, get our ramp, and pull this thing off of our lift. Now, showtime.
This is a little lighter.
How's our height? That's not too bad, actually. We can put a jack underneath this. We'll lift it up. But that's not bad.
Watch your foot, Franny.
Are we good?
Yeah.
That almost, look at that. That gets us really close. Well, we're ready to mate our transmission to the engine. Now, when we picked it up from the rebuild shop, they were super awesome and put a special grease on the spline here. And I just put a bag over it to kind of cover it. It's a very special type of, see, it's kind of stringy. So it's a special type of grease there. All right. And then on our little throwout arm here, now this is going to connect to the slot over here in the throwout bearing right here, just inside this slot. And what I read in the manual was to use a little bit of moly disulfide grease, which just so happens to be the same as CV joint grease. So we don't need a ton of it. Of course, we don't want grease flinging all over inside here because we've got our clutch over here and we don't want the clutch to get any grease on it. But we do want to lubricate this a little bit. Put a little on the contact points here. Now you can see they also went ahead and refurbished this arm as well. Many times these arms can have cracks here and down here, and when you actuate it from down below, they'll tend to either splay open or bend, and it messes with the clutch action. So we had them inspect it very carefully, and it looks pretty good. So I think that'll do.
And the transmission wasn't in as bad a shape as we thought when we...
Right. No, that's a good point, Heidi. So when we picked it up, we had all sorts of questions about what kind of condition the transmission was in, and it really wasn't that bad. So it had a few bad synchro rings on it, and that was pretty much about it. The gears were in good shape, and the bearings were in good shape. They actually said, you know, it's really not that bad at all, but I think they replaced pretty much all of the synchro rings, and a couple of them were quite worn. In fact, had no surface on them at all. So that was totally worth doing. I think we're in good shape, and I really do trust the shop that we got it done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they were really, really good. Yeah, so yeah, Stores was awesome.
You know, the interesting thing is that it's a 30-plus-year-old car, and that it was in that good a shape.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's what they said. They said that the transmission had been well cared after, and it hadn't been hot rodded and just destroyed. We're really, really close. So I'm going to have Marcel just sort of pump on the big pedal there just to raise the engine up just a smidgen. And as soon as it comes up to the right height, we should be able to basically slide this guy in just about there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Real quick segue here. I had a lot of questions about the clutch and the pilot bearing and my installation of the pilot bearing. So I pulled the clutch back off and pulled that pilot bearing out and put in a brand new one that had been sitting in the freezer for a while, and it popped right in. Then I went through and re-torqued the clutch, and that's why you see all that pink on all of the clutch bolts. Okay, now the trick is, do you remember the arm that we talked about? That has to engage the throwout bearing. Now there's an access port here where you can look through and see what's going on. But since we also have the starter out, we can check that out as well. So we can see our arm here, and we see it starting to connect with the slot there in the actual throwout bearing. Now as we move this back, you can kind of test it by trying to move this back and forth. Now since we have the starter out, I can also reach in from this side and sort of pull on that arm and make sure it's connected. But it looks really good in there. Continue pushing this in. There it goes. Okay, I think you can kind of see it there. You can see that the top of the yoke there right inside the slot. That looks great. So this is our issue right here. You can see it even left a little mark in it. The transmission is actually hitting the tin here, so I'm going to loosen this up a little bit so we can move things around a little bit. Now move that guy up a little bit. That looks better. Now I'll bet we can get the transmission in. Yep, that was definitely it. I think really maybe the tin should probably have gone on after the transmission was in, and maybe that would have made life a little bit easier. My next step was to add the 3 mounting nuts and pull the transmission in the last little bit. I've got our 3 nuts on and all cinched down. We're essentially pretty much mounted at this point. They still need to be torqued, but before I get to that, I want to install the starter here. So this guy goes on here, and this guy has to fit in. I think that's pretty much close. Now these are the original cap nuts that were used to attach the starter here. And you can see inside there, they're pretty well buggered up. So you can kind of see they're just kind of chewed up in there because somebody put the wrong tool in there and just kind of messed it up. So if your car's like this as well, what you can do is replace it with new cap nuts. And you're like, oh great, well yeah, of course. But the thing is that you won't find these cap nuts. I searched all over for these things and never did find them. These are actually head stud nuts is what they are. And they're exactly the same as the starter attachment. So yeah, so these guys go on here like that. They are a little bit difficult to get to, and it is kind of funny. If you try to get a straight shot into this thing, it's off and it's hard to get to. So you almost have to use an Allen wrench to put these things on. Here's the issue, is that even with a very short Allen, it won't go in straight. And that's why people have buggered these things up so bad. So what I found is just to use a standard Allen wrench that's bent over. They're shorter and you can actually get them in. Yes, it's a bit of a pain, but at least you won't bugger up that cap nut. It feels super tight. You know what? Maybe I should put a little grease on that flange. I better go in better. Pull these back out. Well, I wasn't feeling great about how that was going in, so I added a little bit of grease, just a teeniest little layer of it, and also on this surface here where this thing is actually going to contact. Let's see if that helps at all. Still sort of expect it to be a little bit tight, but maybe it'll go in with a little bit of friendly convincing. There's nothing really keeping it from going in, so. Okay. Oh yeah, that feels better.
I do not see the threads anymore.
Yeah, it's getting in there. Just about
Right.
done. Just about seated. Using this Allen doesn't make it go very fast, that's for sure. Okay, that's seated, and boom, that's seated on that side as well. Next, we need to torque these nuts down. They're 33 foot-pounds or 45 newton meters. I've got my torque wrench all set. They're a little difficult to get to, except for this one, which is super duper easy. So we'll go ahead and lock that one down. That one's torqued. So I'll just put a dab of color on that, and that just means it's been torqued. Now this next one is a little bit difficult to get to. Notice the torque wrench just won't really sit on there well. I have a very short wobbly that might work. Let's see if we can get that in there. Yeah, there we go. All right, yay, torqued. That one's great. This is our next one to torque. Now this one, my gosh, there's no way you're gonna get a socket on there, and there's no room back here at all either. So this one's a bit of a bear. What I do have is this guy here, which is a small little torque adapter, 15 millimeter, that I got specifically for doing the oil on this car. But I'm wondering if we can use this. I have to put an extension on this. I know this all looks pretty wonky. Now the trick here is that we need to stay 90 degrees to our torque adapter with our torque wrench here, or we're going to have to add in the length, and I don't want to do that. We're pretty close. I think it's going to roll down a little bit. Yep, there we go. Awfully close here. We're up against the tin. There we go.
Yay.
That's about as close as you're gonna get, I think. So these little guys are kind of cool, little teeny torque adapters where you don't have enough room to use your big torque adapter, which is what we're probably gonna have to use here-ish, I guess. I'm not sure how we're gonna do these guys either, but they're next. Now, in order to torque down these cap nuts here, about the only tool I've got that'll work on these guys anyways is just sort of my standard Allen wrench here. So I've attached my torque adapter to it. And if I run at 90 degrees here, we should be able to torque this guy down. All right, here we go. This is for reals. There we go. As long as the torque wrench is pretty darn close to 90 degrees here, the amount that you've got your torque wrench set to will be the delivering torque. It's a little weird, but it's true, it's the way it works. If we run it parallel, then we would have to add in the extra distance here to our torque, and we'd have to lower our torque wrench. Sometimes that's your only option, and that's fine too. Just be aware of that. But if you're at 90 degrees, the cool thing is whatever you got your torque wrench set to is what will be delivered at the end. I just love that. All right, well, we've got the same thing over here. All right, and we've got our last one here. There we go. Clicky, clicky.
Is that everything?
No, it isn't actually.
Where's your nail polish?
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Put a little dab on that, a little dab on that. And we forgot our one back here. We did that one as well. Get that one done. Okay, great. But the bit we forgot, of course, was our tin. So let's go ahead and lock that back down again. Okay, that's that. And we have 2 loose bolts up here. Okay, there we go. Well, that's all back together. Now these are the wires for the starter, so we want to attach them. The big one goes on the big connector here. All right, the big one goes on the big pole here on the solenoid. And our little yellow wire here goes on this connection here. This is a 7mm. Okay. That's that guy in there. In fact, I need to move it down just a little bit. I got a new rubber boot for it. There we go. That looks cute. And this nut, believe it or not, has a torque spec as well. It's 7.5 foot-pounds or 10 Newton meters. I've got my smallest little torque wrench here. There we go. And put our boot on. All right, happy camper. This guy here goes back here and connects here. All right, that's that. There should be a little connector here for this guy. All right, and finally we want to add our little clip. So a bunch of these clips are kind of missing, you know, they get old and they break off. So I ordered some new ones, which was pretty fun, and this guy just goes on here like that and holds this wire. So there we go, yay. We want to take a quick few minutes and do something we've never done before, and that's mail time. That's awesome. Now we do have a P.O. box that you can send us mail, but we really haven't gotten any mail. And Heidi checked it recently, and Heidi?
Yeah, we actually got some letters from a while ago, and so now we know that we need to check it more often.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited because we got 3 letters, and I'm going to read you the letters, and they're very complimentary, and I think you'll enjoy them.
Yeah, it's really fun.
The first one is from a young George from Canada. My name is George. I live in Canada, and I really love your YouTube channel. You are wonderful teachers, and your shows are so educational and entertaining. Please keep up the good work. I really wish there were more YouTube videos like yours on all makes and models of the automobiles. You got that, Franny?
I'm listening.
P.S. Shout out to Chris Fix. He's an auto mechanic, and on his channel, he does everything on cars in such a way it makes me want to be an auto mechanic. Love your show. Best wishes, George from Canada.
Oh, that's awesome. And Chris Fix is awesome too. He's the largest YouTube channel in the car world, so that's pretty sweet.
Chris, hope you're watching this. There's your fan mail.
All right, our next letter here is from Kevin, and check this out. It's actually written on a typewriter. Isn't that cool? There's a reason for that. He says, "Dear Heidi and Franny, hi guys. I hope this letter finds you both well. This is Kevin, one of your YouTube subscribers, and I have emailed you before, but was so excited to get a reply, and I noticed in your YouTube description that you have a snail mail address. One of my many hobbies is finding and repairing old school mechanical typewriters." Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
And writing to people all over the world. I've even gotten to be pen pals with Tom Hanks.
Wow.
Wow, isn't that cool? That's so cool. Who is also an avid typewriter collector. Who knew, right?
Right.
That's pretty cool though. Oh, that's neat. I say all this to say I've added you guys to my mailing list so that I might send you guys something every once in a while. Hope that's all right. That would be awesome.
Right.
I'd be so happy to get a letter like this. I'm saving up to buy a Super Beetle and want to do the work on it myself, so I'm so happy to have found your channel. Quarantine has taught me that I have more free time on my hands for a while, and I shouldn't wait to do cool things because you never know what tomorrow holds. And that's really, really good advice.
Right.
So hope you both are staying safe and wearing masks, etc.
Right.
Until next time, Kevin. And thank you so much, Kevin. This is a real treasure. Thank you so much.
Neat. Thank you. We have one last letter. Hi, Heidi and Franny. I'm in the process of purchasing a Concours level 1958 Porsche 356A 1600S.
Sweet.
I'm an American of German descent living in Vail the last 35 plus years. Purchasing this car has been a lifelong process. I have wrenched on my only car since 1983, a 1966 Pontiac Le Mans convertible. The Le Mans is being sent to Scottsdale to be restored. That made space for the 1600S. Your videos on almost the same car have me incredibly interested to meet my new friend. Thanks so much for what you have been doing, and please keep doing it. Stay safe and enjoy the struggle. Mark.
That's so awesome.
Right.
So I can't wait to see pictures of that car. That's going to be amazing. So.
Right.
All right, well, that was just a quick little segment here for mail time. If we get more letters in the future, we'll go ahead and read them on the channel as well. So thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get back to the video. I think we're going to cut the video off here. We got quite a bit done. We got the engine down off of the stand. That was actually kind of crazy, wasn't it? Got our transmission mounted, and we're all set here, and the starter back on. So we're all good to go. The next episode is going to be getting it back in the car, so you're not going to want to miss that. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that now. Hit the little bell next to it to be notified, because this could get a little crazy and you don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, a very special thank you to our Patreon supporters. Until next time, safe travels. Bye.